Ladies and gentlemen, God bless President Trump. God bless America. I'm really at a loss for words. This is the Associated Press. I'm sure that you've heard everything that I've heard. But I'm doing this with a heavy heart. I thank goodness and thank God Trump is alive. And I really am at a loss for words right now. As I always say, hit subscribe to this channel, to my super chat, thank you. But honestly, all that stuff, I really just don't know what to say other than thank God Trump is alive. The Associated Press is acknowledging this is being investigated as an attempt on his life. It saddens me that one or two attendees have lost their lives. It does not sadden me that the culprit has been addressed, so to speak, taken care of, so to speak. I have no clue the motivation of the culprit, the suspect. I have no clue who the person is at this point. And let's go ahead and we can watch. Let's watch the footage. First, Newsmax was on point. Newsmax was. I'll show you more Fox News, but Newsmax was right there that moment, giving information. And you know, media in general was trying now to make this about a heated environment in 2024. I think it was one journalist was saying that, well, you know, we never had to really address these types of issues. This was the first attempt on a president's life since Reagan. And you look at the rhetoric from MSNBC and CNN and the New York Times, the Washington Post, Robert De Niro, Kimmel, Colbert, every single day they're comparing Trump to the 1930s and 1940s German leader. Every single day they're saying he's a menace to democracy. Every single second of every single day for 7 to 8 years now, they have been telling you that Trump is the embodiment of evil. Simply because they lost in 2016. Simply because they lost influence and political power. And then they say that Trump's rhetoric causes mayhem and chaos. The most mayhem and chaos comes from the side opposite of Trump. The political side exactly opposite of Trump. Billions upon billions in property damage, and they ignore that. And I agree with why people peacefully demonstrated, but you had that summer, Trump's last year in office, with billions and billions in property damage. And you see that there was an attempt on his life, you know, an obvious assassination attempt on his life. And it's just, it's unbelievable how, I mean, this is another point altogether. Because there was one attendee or two attendees who might have lost their lives, but he won a landslide. And again, the landslide and everything else, the main issue is the life lost or the lives lost because of a very deranged, you know, individual. And by the way, we can get to Second Amendment control. You cannot control evil. You cannot control, no matter what you do, the intentions or the behavior of somebody who is intent on committing evil. You have to simply, that person has to simply meet a reciprocal reaction or force, which is what took place, unfortunately, after they tried to take Trump's life. And unfortunately, it's so sad and terrible that somebody lost, I believe, her life. I'm not 100% sure. But listen to this, then you'll actually see what took place in a moment.
It was your typical Trump speech. The crowd was fired up. I sat down in my seat watching the president, and then you heard the first shot. Greg, it sounded like, honestly, it didn't sound like some kind of high-powered rifle, like kaboom. It was like a pop. It sounded like a firecracker, the first one. And then there was more, and then there was more, and then that's when it dawned on everybody there was an assassination attempt going on, or there's some type of shooting to some degree, mass shooting on the crowd. And I was on the risers directly in front of the president, and I ducked down, everybody dove down, and then the firing stopped. And I looked up, and I didn't see President Trump. I just saw the scrum around him on stage, and I just started shouting out. I said, where is he? Where is he? Is he down? They're like, yeah, he's behind the podium. He's behind the podium. He's down. I'm thinking the worst. I'm saying we know he's okay now. Thank God he's okay. And then off to the left. So, Greg, President Trump is speaking directly to the crowd. To the right, the shot came, at least one of them, as you're saying now there's two snipers involved in this. At least one of them was off in the risers. There's the risers behind him, to the right, his right-hand side. That's where the state police, I looked over there, I saw state police converged on somebody over there, a scrum going on just as well. By that time, the shooting had stopped, but the crowd was in dismay. I mean, we just saw an assassination attempt against the president. It was kind of weird. Some water system shot out from the two monitors that were by him. One of them, I don't know if a bullet hit it or something and hit a line or whatnot, but everything stopped, and then water shot out, sprayed out from the side, and then the rest is kind of a blur, Greg. We just had the assassination attempt on Trump, but I will say this. When he got up and he fist pumped the crowd, we all fist pumped him back, including myself. We all screamed, USA, USA, we love you. Everybody was... it was happening in real time, so we didn't really know what to do, but we all fist pumped him, and they whisked him out and then put him in the SUV, and then he was gone. The scrum continued off to the side, though, within seconds, Greg. Police tape had been put up around that area. Secret Service in that area came through. They began kicking over chairs, obviously looking for weapons or whatnot. And it was all focused to that side. I did see what I thought to be blood on the bleachers to where the shots looked like they came from and to where that scrum was going on. And then the crowds, they got on the intercom and they said, you got to go. Everybody's got to clear out. And everybody started clearing out. And we tried to get on air as soon as we could. And we did. And that's the latest now. Everyone's been leaving, Greg. And you can see behind me, this was the row of all the Trump memorabilia. What a day. What a fun day we were having here in Western Pennsylvania, Greg. As you know, I'm from here. I grew up about an hour and 20 minutes away. And this was a great day for Western PA. The crowd was huge. I haven't seen a crowd covered a lot of Trump rallies. I haven't seen one like this. It was enormous. And to have it end like this, obviously it's awful. It's awful they tried to kill President Trump. It's just awful for the country, period. What happens next? Where do we go next? Where are things going to go? No one knows. It's a new country now. So, but that's the way it unfolded, Greg.
So, again, media is desperately trying, and you'll actually see the moment in a second. But media is desperately trying, ladies and gentlemen. And the only reason I say hit subscribe to this channel is just so my voice, your voice can be heard, especially on November 5th, which is almost like a birthday for the country, almost like a rebirth or vindication. If you've lost friends and family because wonderful, highly educated, liberal Democrats disowned you, November 5th will be a day that everyone on the planet will realize is not only a part of U.S. history, but the future of our country, thank God. The future of our country is Trump. And media and Democrats and Hollywood could do everything they can to stop him. And you saw what took place today. The individual, or plural, who knows. I mean, that was some divine intervention that was very bizarre. I think that he did get grazed on the side of his ear or his face. Who knows exactly what happened there? But it wasn't divine intervention for the one or two poor, unfortunate souls that lost their lives today. I mean, that day in January, the people who lost their lives, almost all of them, aside from the police officer the day after, or a couple days after, there was an unarmed woman who supported Trump who lost her life. There were other people who lost their lives, all supporters of Trump. And nobody brings that up. Not Liz Cheney, not Kinzinger, not anyone. They're not crying for the billions in property damage or the lives lost who were supporters of Trump that day, or the billions in property damage that summer. How do you ignore this as a country? How do you ignore this? I don't understand how you ignore every single major city in this country had a curfew that summer. And Democrats and media and never Trump Republicans with a straight face, just like they did with Biden's mental capacity, said, oh my God, the real problem is Trump and his rhetoric. You couldn't find, ladies and gentlemen, more vile and venomous rhetoric. You couldn't find more vile and venomous and mean rhetoric than what was leveled at Trump. Or then, I mean, you just look, ladies and gentlemen, look. It's like, how many people do you know? How many people do you know that ruin Thanksgiving dinners or get-togethers or New Year's Eve, or simply because they went on a rant with Trump? I mean, think about that for a second. And then imagine what motivated this person to do what he did. But this is what took place, ladies and gentlemen. God bless America. God bless Trump and his family. And God bless, my God, the poor families of people who lost their lives today at this rally because of a culprit, by the way, that has nothing to do, like they say, Second Amendment control. You cannot control inanimate objects, number one. Number two, it doesn't matter what state of the country. Whether you see these types of atrocities taking place literally every day, even in blue states. You're not going to control the behavior of people who do not care about following the law. End of story. And you need to, like Trump had Secret Service, protect. And the Secret Service that every American has is the Second Amendment. But anyway, let's continue. This is very, 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 and this is, again, I'm following YouTube guidelines. I'm being as respectful as possible. This is obviously a moment in U.S. history that will be talked about forever. Forever.
And that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's sad, take a look at what happened.
Move to the spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Hawkeye's here.
We ready?
Okay, we are watching live at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where former President Trump was speaking on the stage. There has been some kind of disturbance that clearly sets law enforcement and Secret Service into motion, immediately jumping around the former president in a protective mode. The crowd has been screaming. They are standing by. You can hear some voices there saying, "Are we ready to go? Are we ready to go?" We are looking at President Trump. This does not look good. I'm going to be honest with you. From what we can see right here, It looks like they are attempting to move him out, that he may have been injured. He is holding up his arm. He is pumping his fist, but clearly Secret Service wants to get him out of this situation.
So, like I said, God bless America. God bless Trump. And you know what? God bless the families. My God, can you imagine? Can you imagine the families of those of the individual or individuals who lost their lives today? Now, I want to ask the rhetoric of liberal pundits on this platform, the rhetoric of MSNBC journalists and pundits, the rhetoric of journalists at different Times, Post, the Atlantic, all the rhetoric and the vitriol and venom, the fake quotes. How many writers wrote fake, anonymously sourced, completely contrived, fabricated quotes about Trump? Do you think maybe this played into it? Because apparently everything that Trump has ever said or done is linked to. They tried to say that he tried to foment a rebellion against the country because he contested the results. They said that his speech convinced people to commit criminal acts. They made that absurd leap of logic, so let's use that leap of logic against them. Well, I mean, let's just use that leap of logic that they use. Did the rhetoric of every single liberal Democrat contribute to this day? Because they keep saying that Trump fomented this. It's like, and thank you, by the way, to the viewers. I love you. Thank you for the kind words, everybody. And they don't want to say it was an attempt on his life. They don't want to admit that. They're barely admitting that, and this is an Associated Press article. But let's continue. I mean, this is just a really tragic day in American history, mainly because you have a family or families grieving now. Ladies and gentlemen, there is an attendee or attendees that have lost their lives. Okay, there's one attendee, I believe, who lost her life, and another one in serious condition that might lose his or her life. And thank God Trump is alive. But imagine going to the speech, the rally, and then losing your life. And it's like Democrats continually, media continually, Hollywood continually fomented this venom and vitriol. It's every single day, people. Every single second. I've lost 10 friends, lifelong friends, simply because I supported Trump the past 6 years. Do you understand the level of indoctrination? Do you understand if you have to disown a friend or a family member because of a politician? I think that's never happened before in modern U.S. history. Or, I mean, that's that kind of phenomenon. They were even writing articles, "Don't date a Trump supporter." I mean, they are completely apoplectic. And if the tables were turned, it would be 1,000% Trump's fault. But again, it's like we have to, half the electorate and half the country, more than half really, but half the country loves or admires or likes Trump's policies. The other half of the country lives in a world where Biden is completely fine mentally. It's Trump because he drank water in a weird way and walked down a ramp, until they turned on a dime and then said, oh, wow, the debate showed us we need a new nominee, even though he won his primary. Biden did. They said Trump was a Kremlin operative. This was, of course, a lie and a hoax. They said he praised the 1930s and 1940s Germans in Virginia. No, he didn't. Even Snopes took him 6-7 years, but you know what? He didn't. They said he tried to tell people to. Everything that you've heard about Trump has been a lie, ladies and gentlemen, from mainstream or media or Democrats, almost everything. And he's going to win now. Forget the main thing is about the lives lost at this rally from some maniac who was met with reciprocal force, which is what any maniac should be met with, not these absurd calls to control evil. Okay, unfortunately, we can't control evil in this world, but we can react to it with reciprocal behavior. And let's just continue, ladies and gentlemen.
Martha McCallum joining us as our coverage continues live here in Milwaukee. And Shannon, just want to bring up, there's a lot of information out there from the Butler County, Pennsylvania DA. And he apparently, his name is Goldinger, Goldinger. And apparently he's speaking with a number of members of the press. None of this has been confirmed, so I just want to walk cautiously with it. But listening to David McCormick describe that man who was seated near him being carried out with numerous tourniquets on his body. There were casualties. As to whether or not there were fatalities, we hope and pray that's not the case. We can't confirm that right now, but there certainly were others who were injured. How many, we can't say either. But when we look at that video, it appears, Shannon, he grabs his right ear before you hear a sound. And then after that, there was a repeated sound over and again. In addition to that, you have, in all likelihood, what would be the Secret Service returning fire, and that's why we have that quote that we have used now, shooter is down. So we'll wait for an update out of Butler, but we just want to bring you some of that now.
We're just getting something coming in from the Associated Press here. This is to the AP. They say the shooter is dead and a rally attendee was killed at the Trump event in Pennsylvania. They say the Butler County District Attorney is telling them that. That's according to the Associated Press. The shooter dead, and someone also who was attending that rally.
I wonder how the wonderful, morally superior, brilliant and talented actor Robert De Niro feels now, or maybe Kimmel, or maybe Stephen Colbert. How do these people feel where every single day, or at least in Kimmel and Colbert, and every single day, there's an attempt at disparaging Trump? Every single, Jimmy Kimmel and Colbert should be comedians. Like Johnny Carson didn't focus every single day on trying to prop up the Democratic Party. Arsenio Hall didn't focus every single second and every single day. Merv Griffin didn't focus every single day on propping up the Democratic Party. Why is it that Kimmel and Colbert and others, Seth Meyers, John Oliver, this is an entire machine? I've been telling you, this is an entire machine. They don't stop. It's never ending. It's never ending. It's every single day, every single second. Every single second they're trying to convince people of how evil Trump is. And then today happens. And we all knew today would happen. We all knew it was just a matter of time before some absolute maniac who was influenced by the rhetoric, by the insults, the venom, the vitriol of the morally superior left or mainstream media or whatever you want to call it. It was just a matter. They tried to call him a Kremlin operative. It didn't work. It didn't work. Okay? They tried to indict him, imprison him. I told you the Supreme Court would not allow that. They're now going out. And we saw this with Schumer and Kavanaugh. This is not the first time. Chuck Schumer made very vile references towards Kavanaugh and towards the Supreme Court and Kavanaugh, and then somebody tries to take Kavanaugh's life. We saw this. And then one government agency comes out with a report. Oh, all the chaos and mayhem comes from Trump's side. That government agency is aligned with the same people who despise Trump. We know how you'd have to be an imbecile pertaining to how politics works to think that, mayhem and chaos comes from Trump's side. It doesn't. You look at the billions and billions in property damage that summer You look at what took place today. You look at what took place. You look at every single day in the news, in media, in Hollywood. Okay. All the vile things that are said about Trump. You think maybe using the logic of Democrats, you think any of their rhetoric contributed to today? Oh, but of course, it's all Trump's fault. Even today, the media was trying to insinuate it's Trump's fault because of his behavior.
We've got Pennsylvania Senate candidate David McCormick. He knows what it's like to be in the middle of a heated campaign. But David, I understand you were there. What more can you tell us from your vantage point? And do you know if anybody else was potentially injured?
Yes. Thanks for having me. I'm still at the rally. It's all very chaotic. But I was in the front row, and President Trump had just announced me and had suggested I come up and invited me to come up on the stage, and then he said no, he'll have him come up in a minute or two, and then there were a number of shots, and the crowd just sort of, went to the ground, and the Secret Service came and very quickly tackled the president, but there were 7 or 8 shots, and it was hard to tell whether they came from one direction or from 2 different weapons. It wasn't clear, at least I couldn't tell, and then. Sadly, someone behind me up in the bleachers was definitely wounded. And there was a lot of blood, and, the police came in and helped carry that person out of the stand so they could get the care they needed. I'm not sure if others were injured or not. It was all, as you might imagine, very chaotic. But it was a very scary moment, obviously, because our president and innocent bystanders were under siege.
Yeah, sir, can you tell us how many people had gathered there today? It looked like quite the turnout. And also, can you just take us through what you saw from your perspective? Did it come from your left side or your right side, or where was it in relation to where you were located?
Yeah, I don't, it was an enormous crowd. I had asked a number of law enforcement officers, and they had said something around 15,000. So I don't know if that's an official number, but it was certainly huge. And it just kept coming and coming. It was building throughout the day. It's hard to tell, but at least some of the shots, I was sitting to President Trump's right as he was facing the crowd, and I was in the front row. It felt like some of the shots came from his left side, which would make sense because someone behind me was hit. So it felt like at least some came from that side of the crowd, and as I said, I couldn't tell whether it was one gun or 2, but there were 7 or 8 shots, just one right after another.
Well, and Dave, I mean, you're an Iraq War vet. You have served us in uniform voluntarily, like these law enforcement folks out there today. So it is unmistakable to you that these were gunshots. This was a firearm.
Yeah, it definitely seemed to be the case. I'm no expert on this, but it sounded like a small caliber weapon of some sort. Initially, I thought it might be fireworks or something, but then the succession of the shot, I think it was clearly a weapon, a firearm. And as I said, I couldn't tell whether it was 1 or 2, but clearly this was, from my vantage point as someone who was there, it seemed very much an attack directed at the president, and a very scary moment.
Sir, can you tell us again about the person you saw who was injured or wounded? Again, man or woman, and what sort of condition did you notice they were in?
It was hard to tell. A number of people sitting around this person. It looked like a man. It was a large person. A number of people sitting around it started to administer first aid, and it looked like he had shirts wrapped around him to try to stem the bleeding. And then some police officers came in and carried him out of the stands, and all of that took a couple minutes. So I was sort of focused on that because it was to my back. Whether there were other people wounded or not, I couldn't tell. Of course, it was an enormous crowd, and the way it was set up, the president was on a podium, but there was a crowd behind him, and he was 360 around him. So once the shots happened, it became it wasn't panic. People didn't panic, but it was very chaotic, and everybody went down to the ground. Everybody was laying on the ground because we weren't sure the shooting was done.
Yeah. Sir, I'm going to ask you a question. Choose to answer it the way you like. Is Donald Trump lucky to be alive right now?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
That's divine intervention, folks. That's what's called divine intervention. And I'm not being, facetious, arrogant. I'm not being, I don't know what to say other than that is very, if somebody is going to try to make that kind of attempt, and I believe he was on a roof, something like that. I don't exactly know where. We're all finding all of this out right now. But you have to ask yourself, well, how much time did this maniac have? Okay. So then thank God he was nervous. Thank God he was trembling. Thank God he didn't have the, thank God he didn't have the ability to actually end Trump's life. And again, you have to ask yourself, if rhetoric and if political rhetoric is what Democrats focus on, and political chaos and mayhem is what they fear, and the end of democracy is what they talk about, what did they do to foment or to create today's disaster where you have one or two attendees who are now whose families have to go to a funeral? You understand, people lost their lives potentially because of the apoplectic rhetoric, the political mayhem and chaos that is spewed from publications, cable stations, Hollywood celebrities that are desperate to convince people that Trump is the embodiment of evil. Nobody trusts them. Nobody cares. Nobody believes them. Every single day, you can't take. De Niro was in New York. My God, I guess he lives there, but he was in New York trying to, outside of Trump's court, the trial, talking about how terrible Trump is. Can't Hollywood celebrities just leave it alone and just deal with? Go to Canada. They said they were going to go to Canada. Just go. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about Hollywood anymore. Nobody cares. They care about a great economy, which is what this man was trying to do for our country. They care about a great economy, which we had a great economy. We had a great foreign policy. We didn't have all the chaos and mayhem. That's why Trump is up in every single poll. He's up in every single poll. That's why Democrats, in the most hilarious, sad, pathetic turn of events, have now agreed with everybody saying that Biden had issues. What do you think their role in all of this is?
I mean, again, the facts will come out, and I always am careful when you're in the middle of a crisis. You don't want to draw too many conclusions, but it felt to me like he's very lucky to be alive, and I hope others who were injured are going to survive this. It was a very scary moment.
Sir, thank you for your time. David McCormick is a Republican. He's running for the Senate seat in Pennsylvania, and he was there front row for that incident today.
So the entire Democratic Party political agenda or propaganda or rhetoric towards Trump, that is no longer going to work after today, nor will it be seen as plausible or appropriate. They're not going to be able to say that he's a menace to democracy. Okay, that is out the window now. They're not going to say that this man has survived every single legal and illegal attempt, from them accusing him of being a Kremlin operative to now his life almost taken from him. We have people whose lives were taken at the rally, and that's the real tragedy today, was that there's going to be a funeral now for one or two, who knows, people. And what are they going to say now? That Trump is a menace to democracy? Everyone is talking about how this man was heroic today. The opposite took place. They tried to stop Trump And he's the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics. Anything they do makes him infinitely more popular, influential. Democrats probably lost Congress today also after today. The only thing they have is apoplectic rhetoric towards Trump, okay? But you can't go there now. You'll actually just seem sinister. If they go after Trump in the manner they've done the past 7 years, they'll seem even more sinister, even nastier, even more unhinged than normal. This, by the way, is Biden's, I would say almost half-hearted speech addressing what took place.
I plan on talking to them shortly, I hope, when I get back to the telephone. Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this. And so
how can you unite the country when you continually say that Trump is a threat to democracy simply because you don't like his economic or foreign policy? And then they lie about him being an authoritarian. It's impossible to be an authoritarian or tyrant or totalitarian when media is not on your side, intel agencies are not on your side, government's not on your side, but furthermore, you have the Supreme Court, which Democrats are trying to impeach now, which is so hilarious.
And I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies, that have engaged in making sure that people and we have more detail to come relative to other people maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to if it's not convenient for you all. But the bottom line is, the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. Everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I'm able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. So far, it appears he's doing well, number one. Number two, that there's thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to him tonight, and I'll get back to you if I do. Okay?
Mr. President, do you think this was an assassination attempt?
I don't know enough to. I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. So I want to make sure we have all the facts before I.
How can you not come to this conclusion? It's unbelievable.
Make any more comments? Thank you.
Associated Press being investigated as an attempt to take Trump's life. Okay, my God. The last thing Democrats will admit is that this was an attempt to take Trump's life, because not only are they losing already in every swing state, not only are they losing miserably when it comes to the economy, border, every other issue, foreign policy, democracy even. They started a new category called democracy, which they've taken a giant dump on. But now Trump is a heroic individual in American history, if anything, for surviving today. And again, God bless the families, my God, of people who lost their lives today. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
Well, I plan on talking to them shortly, I hope.
All right, everybody. Well, what can I tell you? What can I tell you other than I'll leave it at this, okay? I'll leave it at this. I've had about 10 friends, lifelong friends, who, you could say, disowned me because of Trump. And during the last conversations or text messages with these people, they basically turned into the character from Lord of the Rings, like, precious, precious. And they just went completely nuts, talking about how Trump is the end of the world. He's a modern day 1930s and 1940s German, and da-da-da. I oppose him. I have to disown our friendship. I oppose Trump. It's like, nobody cares what you oppose. This is about economic and foreign policy. If I had and you had lifelong friends who disown you because of politics, and it says something about a person's character if they're going to disown somebody because they've watched endless CNN or MSNBC coverage or read the New York Times and Washington Post and suddenly came to the conclusion that Trump is a menace to the world. It's like, no, that's called propaganda. You've been indoctrinated and you don't know enough about politics or foreign policy or U.S. history to realize that you can disagree with Trump, you can dislike his policies, you could think they're terrible for the world or the planet. You'd be wrong, but you could think that. But he's not a reincarnation of any tyrant or totalitarian, authoritarian individual. Very difficult to be an authoritarian when you sign prison reform legislation, which is not exactly what tyrants are known for. But then again, you'd have to know something about history. Or bringing home Americans from never-ending military conflict that Biden, Kerry, Clinton, Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld sent them to. Anyway, the point is, if you have ordinarily wonderful, beautiful, awesome human beings, friends of mine who I've lost because of my sin, the great sin of voting for Trump and supporting Trump, if you have very intelligent, ordinarily moral, wonderful, individuals who are so indoctrinated they will no longer speak to friends or family who like Trump. This day was because of the unending quest from media and politicians and Hollywood to disparage Trump, bound to happen. Democrats have lived in this delusional state since 2016. And anything is justified because Trump, they believe, is the end of the world. When in reality, every single poll wants him back. We had 4 years of Biden. We had Democrats after Trump. It was supposed to be a return to normality. It's actually this venture into a terrible economy, an atrocious foreign policy, and other national security issues. Debacles, catastrophes, quagmires. Now we want Trump back. Okay? Trump is the future of this country. Okay? And thank God. You're just going to have to deal with 4 years of a great economy, much better economy, and a much better foreign policy. Democrats, you're not going to get everything you want in the next 4 years, but you don't have to continue to accuse Trump of being a Kremlin operative, which is completely false and, of course, led to campaign finance violations against Democrats. And yet Trump was convicted. Anyway, that conviction will be overturned. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. Exactly, The View. I mean, you could just, count, all of his, Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, God bless you all. God bless America. God bless the families who have lost loved ones today. And what can I tell you? I'll see you tomorrow. And it's a tragic day. There was divine intervention protecting Trump. There really was. But those families today, I'm really thinking of right now that lost loved ones. And the rhetoric of Democrats should be looked at now with greater scrutiny after today. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe. I shouldn't say that in the manner that I did, but that was just instinct.